Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be doing my post-fight reaction and post-fight thoughts on UFC Rio. Overall, I say the card was pretty good. Very few decisions on the card. There were about three in total, and the rest were finishes. The main event absolutely delivered, and another feel-good moment for majority of MMA fans as Charles Olivera got a dominant win over Matios Gamrot. So, without further ado, I'm going to go down on each fight on the card and just give my overall thoughts and how the fights went down. Overall, I didn't do too bad. I went 7-5 overall on the card of 12 fights. It sucks that like Walter Walker and Muhammad Usman got canceled because Walter Walker was more or less a lock on the card to win. But here's what it is. So without further ado, let's get down to the fights. Opening up the card, Luna Lacerda submitted Simon Oliveira via second round armbar. It was just really grapple dominance from Lacerda from round one to near the end of round two before he got the submission. Now, coming into this fight, I wasn't really expecting much from either one. I knew Lacerda was going to be the better wrestler of the two, and it showed. But good God, a bantamweight fight, and Simon Oliveira missed weight by 8 pounds. He was 144 pounds, just 1 pound under the featherweight limit. That has to be one of the worst weight misses I think I've seen in just me watching the sport. Certainly one of them, that's for sure. I'm amazed that Lacerda decided to accept the fight. I mean, granted, it's not like he has much options. He's winless in the organization. Both of them are. But, no longer is Lacerda. I get why he said this, not many other opportunities, chance to get paid. And, he still gets 50% of Oliveira's purse at the end. As for the fight itself, like I said, Lacerda was just the overall better grappler in this case. Instead of when you look at the other Simon Oliveira fights, he lost via knockout, just the better strikers because he's pretty wild on the feet. In this case, he was just out wrestled, then out grappled. Now, there are times, specifically in the second round, when he was able to reverse position and get on top and landed some heavy ground and pound. But then again, he was literally a weight class above him. So, of course, his ground and pound is going to seem pretty vicious. But eventually, Lacerda isolates an arm, starts extending, and I believe it was a verbal tap from Oliveira. And from there, it was just wrap one by armbar. Not sure exactly where they're going to give Luan Lacerda. I mean, this bantamweight division is nothing but killer's row. So I can't really say what would be the next best step, but he now has a win in the UFC, Luan Lacerda. So I'm sure they might give him a debuting guy off the Contender Series. That's honestly what I think they'll probably do. As for Simon Oliveira, cut him immediately. Has 4 straight losses in a row in the UFC. And then this terrible weight miss, yeah, he's not coming back. I don't think. So, that's really all I have for that one. Moving up on the card, Julia Palastri TKO'd Caroline Cavalcantic in the third round. I gotta say, Julia Palastri, I know it's like she's 2-2 in the promotion, and her only other win was to Corey McKenna via split decision. But I really like how she fights. Now, I do worry how her, hands are just by the waist and walking her opponent in a straight line. Not a fan of that. But at the same time, it's kind of some showmanship. She is pretty good with her head movement and her attacks from the waist upward. They got some good sting on her, and she's pretty accurate too. It's also interesting. She's became the only other person besides Jessica Andrade to KO Carolina or TKO her, which is pretty impressive. But at the same time, Carolina is 40 and she has a lot of fights, both in this KSW and kickboxing. So yeah. As for how the fight went, Julia Palastri just kind of put it on Carolina for the entire fight. Never really let her get going. There were at times where it honestly felt like I was watching a kickboxing match with how both of them would fire off combos that ended with a kick, and then the other one would just immediately fire or something, a combo very similar that ended with a kick, just going tit for tat with each other in the first round. Eventually, Palastri ends the first round by putting it all on Carolina. Looks like she's trying to get her out of there in the first round. Doesn't get it, but at least it shows she was going to be the harder hitter of the two. And that's kind of how it felt like throughout the fight. She was calm, collective. She was in the flow. Started relying on head movement and just picked Carolina apart. Eventually, third round, she lands a beautiful switch kick to the head of Carolina, and then that point, she just finished it up with TKO standing, in which I thought it was a good stoppage. Carolina was just going to keep taking punishment, and the ref kind of saved her from her own toughness. As where Pilastri is going to go in this 115-pound division, there's some options for her. I can't say like give her the loser of Fatima Klein versus Angela Hill. I feel like that might be a bit of too much of a step up. But at the same time, what other fighters is there really for her to try? Because strawweight's a little open at the moment. At least until you get to the top 15, then it is pretty cutthroat and ruthless. But whatever they give Pilastri, I'm looking forward to either way. She's honestly pretty fun strawweight to watch, and so far all of her fights have been exciting, at least for me. Moving on with the card. Lucas Rocha defeats Stuart Nickel, unanimous decision. It was 30-27 all across the board. And it was honestly all Rocha needed in this fight was really good striking and some good takedown defense. And that's exactly what he showed in this fight. Honestly, I feel dumb picking Stuart Nickel now that I know how he handles, getting lit up on the feet not too well. Even the kitty agrees right here. That's why she jumped. But some of Nickel's body language was just not good. Sometimes when he get hit to the head, he's just start dipping to the side and just literally his head's no longer facing his opponent and tries to walk away. That is a terrible thing to look at when your fighter's just looking the other way. Sorry, it is. Now, the first round was probably his most successful round if like trying to get to the grappling. Not too successful though. I mean, Rocha would literally just get right back up. He seemed like the stronger guy, Rocha. Even landed some capoeira kicks. He was doing, by the time the third round hit, it was clearly Rocha's fight. There was nothing Stuart Nickel could do. Either he was getting out struck on the feet, his wrestling really went nowhere. Either Rocha stuffed the takedowns, or Nickel tried to just go on his back to, I don't know, play guard game. None of it worked. And Rocha just smartly did not entertain the grappling. He knew he was winning on the feet. He aimed for some pretty good shots on the body. Overall, his strikes were really solid. Really, it was about the perfect performance for Rocha, as you can get. Now, where he goes from here, he could fight an Alessandro Costa. I could see that. Both guys would definitely try and go after each other and possibly tear each other's heads off. I could totally see that. Maybe I can't really think of how many other unranked flyweights. Oh my god, who am I kidding? I wouldn't mind a fight between Rocha and Lazy Boy Ronaldo Rodriguez. I could totally see him making that matchup. Good bounce back for Ronaldo Rodriguez, or a good step up for Lucas Rocha. I could totally see that. Stuart Nickel, they could give him Nayundin Tumbin Dumbarov. Oof, that name. They could give him that. I mean, both guys are coming off the loss last time I checked. And it could be a bounce back for either one of them. I definitely think Tumbin Dembarov would favor to win that, but we could see. Moving up, Beatrice Mesquita submitted Irina Alekseeva via rear naked choke. I had said how I was pretty worried about Mesquita just because how much of an unknown she is. 5-0 as a professional, 34 years old, came in MMA late, but quite possibly the greatest female grappler ever. So there is that. And a woman of her accolades and her specific skill set transition MMA, it's about as flawless as the debut as I can think of. First round, clear 10-8. The moment Mesquita wrapped her arms around each other and had the body lock onto Alekseeva and took her down, that round was over. There was no way Irina was getting back up. There's just no way. I mean, from how easily Mesquita just got to mount and then just laid it on with the ground and pound. Either 12-6, some punches, slashing elbows. By the end of that first round, Alekseeva's face was swollen. Her nose was bloody. It was not a pretty sight at all. It was clearly a 10-8 from Mesquita. And again, about as flawless as round as I can think of. Especially like wondering how her striking will be. She's still clearly clunky on the feet, but I mean, she started her debut about a year ago, so obviously her striking is not going to be up there just yet, and who knows if her striking will be. But for now, her grappling second to none. Because the second she got the takedown again in the second round, Alex Kiva overturned to avoid getting mounted and just gave up her back, and just like that, cinched up the back, fastened the rear naked choke, and it was over. It will be very interesting to see how Mesquita does at 135 pounds because, I mean, the women's bantamweight division always in need of some fresh blood, and only like 2 or 3 wins against unranked foes usually gets you a shot in the top 15. I mean, hell, even 1 win can get you a shot at that. Question is how fast they want to roll Mesquita because got a match in 34. Transition MMA pretty late. Much how much do they set her up before they give her like a big test is what I'm trying to say. Like, could they throw her a bone and give her, say, Melissa Mullins or someone equivalent to that as another good step up in competition? Or would they just thrust Mesquita right away to a top 15 matchup? You know what I mean? I personally say, give her one more unranked opponent because Irina Alekseeva is not that good. She might get cut from this too. This is her 3rd straight loss, and this is the worst of them all. But it was still a UFC win at the end of the day against an athlete who does have a win in the UFC. So, as the right step, I've been see that she's at least very interesting to watch in this women's bantamweight division. She's very much like Michelle Montague back at UFC Perf or Reyes versus Olberg. Just a similar one-dimensional grappler, but by God, that one dimension they're very good at, and they're in a division where most of these girls, at most, their best grappling is heavy top pressure, fighting like Harrison or Mesquita or Montague, these high-level grapplers. Yeah, they're kind of a problem. I'm not saying make that fight Mesquita versus Montague, though I do imagine those two will fight each other sometime in the future. I can actually say that. I wouldn't say do it now. Both of them are too good of a prospects. A fight with Luana Carolina is not a bad idea. I mean, Carolina, I know she lost to Michelle Montague and more or less pretty handily as the fight went on, but she gave her some trouble for good portions of that fight. It's not a bad idea. I mean, she will at least give Mesquita, I think, a much tougher test than Alex Skiva. But, at the end of the day, it's UFC division. Either they rush her to the ranks or not. But either way, I'll be there to cover for it. That I can assure you. Moving up on the card. Vitor Petrino knocks out Thomas Peterson in the beginning of round 3, about 30 seconds into round 3. Up until that knockout, I was not happy with how Vitor Petrino was performing as the fight went on. First round, he looked fine. He was able to outmuscle Thomas Peterson at times. He clearly looked like he was made for heavyweight. I mean, weighed in about 250 and looked every bit of it. And I guess how's you say it all the time when you see a fighter move up in weight, you go, man, how the fuck did that guy ever make blank weight? I'm seriously wondering how Vitor Petrino made 205 pounds because, man, he looks like a real heavyweight, and I'm just so baffled. Like, wow, how'd that guy really cut to 205? I mean, he seems to be in his weight class now. At the beginning of the fight, like I said, he out wrestled Thomas Peterson at times. I give Peterson credit, and I said it in my breakdown. I feel like Peterson is a guy who has at least improved fight to fight. You can at least clearly see a level of growth from fighting Jamal Pogues to now, because he did give Vitor Petrino at least somewhat of a test, or at least he certainly gave him more adversity than Austin Lane did, because there was times where Peterson was getting up when he got taken down, reversing, getting held onto the fence, or able to break grips at times. And honestly, it was kind of looking like the fresher guy, because in round 2, Vitor Petrino was literally just turning his back to Peterson and just walking nonchalantly like, okay, I'm back into it. He looked so tired by round 2. It was so weird. I thought, wait, why is it seems like Peterson is having like the better cardio. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I just thought Vitor Petrino did not show a good gas tank by round two. Now, granted, in his post fight interview, he did say how he got sick, he couldn't train for about 2 weeks. So okay, if that's true, then I am inclined to be a little more lenient. Still, though, the light heavyweight moving up to heavyweight, gassing out more than a heavyweight one, more or less a blob. Now, granted, this was the best shape I've seen Thomas Peterson in, like comparison to Petrino, still a bit of a blob. Seemingly has more cardio, but it didn't matter. By round three, Petrino just found the perfect shot for a right uppercut, left hook, and Peterson falls face first. And then Petrino just seals the deal with two accurate ground and pound strikes. Peterson was out cold. Where they go from here? Bit open ended for me because I would think Vitor Petrino will probably now fight for a ranking. 2 wins at heavyweight, 2 finishes, and heavyweight's kind of like women's bantamweight. They really need a lot of new blood. Because I'm not kidding when I tell you there's about 37 UFC heavyweights. There's not really much you can do in terms of like shaking up the division with fresh matchups. Because 15 of the 37 is sorry, I apologize. Some of my thoughts are going out. But basically what I'm trying to say is of the 37, you already know 15 of them are in the rankings, so that doesn't exactly leave much. That leaves about 12. So it's really odd exactly what to do. That being said, Vitor Petrino called out Marcin Tybura. I think they might be inclined to give him that fight, just because, again, Marcin Tybura at least seems to be on the way out, and Vitor Petrino is an interesting fighter to have in the heavyweight top 10. Now, I don't think he'll win a belt, and I don't really see him getting past the top 7, but, might as well see what happens. If they don't give him Marcin Tybura, they might give him someone a little lower in the rankings first. But either way, hey, I wouldn't mind it. At least if he is going to fight for a ranking, Marcin Tybura makes sense. Hell, Tai Tuivasa makes sense, but I don't know when Tai is ever fighting again. As for Thomas Peterson, rough loss. This is like his second straight loss via the knockout after the win over Dontel Mays getting knocked out by Shamil Gaziv before them. Not a good look. I know they won't cut him yet because he at least still can get wins at times. I'm just not sure they give him. I mean, maybe who is it? Rizniev Kuniev could fight Peterson, especially considering he's would have to come back from that loss to Curtis Blades. Or Kenny Nzechukwu might fight him as well. There's some options for Peterson, but it's really just who could they possibly give him. Also, they could give him a guy who's making his debut off the Contender Series. I could totally see that for Peterson as well. Moving up on the card, Rafael Filho submits Clayton Carpenter in the first round via Kimura. Man, Filio's just a beast. I don't know what it is. He is really just a beast. Him and Carpenter fought mostly on the feet for about a minute or two into the round. Then it was Carpenter who initially initiated the grappling between him and Filho. And I'm forgetting the exact sequence off the top of my head, but eventually Filio's on bottom, Carpenter's on top, and Filio is able to cinch up a Kimura and use it to sweep and end up on top. And then he still has the grip, so he's still just cranking that thing. You can just see Carpenter's shoulder look like it's ready to pop out of socket. It was pretty nasty. It looked like that thing was going to pop up until he tapped. I mean, that's what Filio's third straight win in the UFC by finish. The man is dangerous. He's got a lot of submissions. This will be his 11th win via submission of 17 wins now. Man, he's an interesting player in flyweight, to be honest. I mean, now he has some losses to Alan Nascimento, who is fighting Rafael Estevan for the number 15 spot in flyweight. They lost to Muhammad Mukayev, who was an ultra prospect and is still undefeated now. Oh, it's tough to say what they give Filho because I think he is good enough to eventually fight for the rankings, but right now he's not of that level just yet. But at the same time, he's proven really good against some of the other unranked flyweights, like Ode Osborne and Daniel Barez, as he's beaten them. Hmm. I'm wondering if they give him like Loner Kavanaugh, because Kavanaugh is a very good fighter, a very good prospect. And they might give him Filio as a nice bounce back after the loss to Charles Johnson. I could definitely see that fight, and I'm all for it. Loner Kavanaugh versus Filio, that's an awesome fight. As for Clayton Carpenter, tough loss. Now 2 losses in a row, but you think about it, like Tagir Ulanbekov and Filio are really elite fighters. So I guess really no shame in that. But this is his second straight loss in a row after being undefeated. They might give him a step down in competition, or they might just throw him to the wolves. It's really hard to say. Flyweight is a really cutthroat division as well. I mean, that's kind of the saying for all the lighter divisions. Though I could definitely see Clayton Carpenter fighting Felipe Dos Santos if he's still in the UFC. I can also see Clayton Carpenter as well fighting the Loot. Ooh, Edgar Chavez be a pretty good opponent for him. Or similar to Lucas Rocha, maybe they might give him Ronaldo Rodriguez. I'm not sure how likely that is, because I know Rodriguez is more or less pretty popular with the Mexican crowd, so they might want to give Ronaldo an easier opponent to get a win in next time they go to Mexico or UFC Noche. So the great win by Filio and showing that he's ever so dangerous no matter who he's matched up against. Moving up on the card, Michael Aswell destroyed Lucas Almeida in the first round. I said it before. I was in my breakdown of this fight, and I'll say it again. I might look stupid when I say Aswell doesn't have that kind of punching power that I thought he had. But I have to remember, or I'm kicking myself in the head because I should have realized. Well, he fought Balaji Oki, who in himself is a pretty durable fighter. Not to mention that fight was up a weight class on short notice, so be forgiven for not showing as good as power as I thought he should have showed. I mean, in a weight class that's not his own. So I do apologize for that part, but boy, he smoked Lucas Almeida. Granted, a lot of people did pick flip if they were picking Almeida, especially in the ceremonial weigh-ins, as you could see Almeida's right hand visibly swell. It looked like a balloon. It looked like his right hand was broken. And people were right. He didn't throw a right hand once in this fight. Didn't even really lift his right hand up to guard his face. He just it was just kind of out there. And even with his left hand, there wasn't much activity going off it. Aswell literally was just destroying him with overhand rights again and again and again. There were some times he threw the left hook as well, but it really was just the overhand right. Could not miss. And it was kind of like I thought. Almeida is just really stiff as a board. He doesn't move his head much at all. He is there to be hit. And for as much power as he has and all that, he's not that good of a striker, at least defensively wise. He's not. And Aswell was just able to unload. And eventually he drops Almeida bad. I thought Jason Herzog was going to stop the fight. But, Almeida, for his credit, tried to fight back, but eventually Aswell just swarmed him, finished it with ground and pound. He literally held his head with his left hand and just started smashing him with elbows. It was a pretty gnarly TKO win by Michael Aswell, I'll say, and gets a big win in Rio, his first UFC win, and kind of his first win under the Zuffa banner, because he didn't win his Contender Series fight either. I do think this probably cuts Lucas Almeida from the UFC. This is his 4th straight loss in the promotion, 2nd one overall. This is, I think, the worst loss of his career, besides getting run over by Pat Sabatini. I think they might cut Lucas Almeida, or at least that's what I think they should do, just because I don't think he really brings much to the featherweight division, and like I said, it was a really bad loss. As for Michael Aswell, though, kind of sky's the limit for him. I mean, he's pretty young at 25. He's got a lot of room to grow, and he's training with Joshua Van and in their gym in Texas. And I gotta say, that gym is producing some high-level fighters, or at least fighters with really good boxing. Funny enough, too, Aswell basically spoiled it, but at UFC 323, which is December 6th. He revealed how Joshua Van is going to be fighting on that card. I mean, we all kind of knew that Van versus Pantoja was going to be on that card, probably the co-main event. And I would suspect, I have heard how Volk might be headlining that card, but we'll see at the end of the day. But still, basically, Aswell wants to fight on that card. I say, give him what he wants. Why not? He did the UFC a favor, fighting Beloki on pretty short notice, and then getting a phenomenal win in Brazil. I say give it to him. Why not? I don't know who they give him exactly. I mean, this featherweight division is so stacked. It's crazy. But, I mean, at the same time, though, the division is no short of fighters that he can fight. I mean, Danny Silva would be pretty fun, but I think they might save Silva because I think Silva's still a prospect they like to watch out for, and they might give him someone different. But, again, no shortage of fights for Michael Aswell in this division, that's for sure. Moving up on the card, this was our main card opener. Khan Offley submits Ricardo Ojamos in the first round via standing rear naked choke. Boy. It's like I said, or I'll say this a lot in the video, I can say that much. In my breakdown of this fight, I had said how I did not like Ramos being a 2-1 favorite. I don't think he was a 2-1 favorite at all. I understood him being a slight favorite because he does have some good finishing instincts, and I thought overall he was the more dangerous of the two. And for, the first minute of it, it looked like it. Granted, and then the problem showed up. His fight IQ is negative. He doesn't have a good fight IQ at all. Because as he is hunting for this heel hook on Khan Offley and switching either from that to a straight knee bar, to back to a toe hold, to back to the heel hook, constantly just switching up leg entanglements. My problem with that is Offley was clearly composed and calm enough to ward off all the attacks, even when it looked like his knee was starting to bend the wrong way. Offley still just kept fighting. You'd think Ramos would be smart enough to eventually just break off the leg lock, possibly get the back as Offley is, turning his back to Ramos in order to break the figure 8 position and whatnot. But no, he just keeps holding on to the leg because he thinks he's going to get a low percentage heel hook or, leg lock. Eventually, they scramble, and Offley is on Ramos's back. And his first few attempts on the rear naked choke weren't as good because they were either covering the face or he didn't have the grip secured as Ramos was hand fighting. Eventually, Ramos stands up, and Offley secures the body triangle. So now he's on Ramos's back while Ramos is standing. Eventually, he's able to cinch up the rear naked choke. There's a bit of hand fighting, but eventually it's over, and Offley fully cinches up the choke on Ramos, and Ramos just tapped. He knew his goose was cooked. Honestly, I think it's probably time to cut Ramos from the UFC. I mean, he's a fun guy, don't get me wrong, but he just makes so many bad decisions. It's just what's the point? I don't think he's going to get better. He might stay the same. The type of fighter like him can maybe beat the lower opposition, but now he's lost to a guy who was winless in the UFC. It's against someone who, the odds-wise anyway, he was supposed to crush, it seemed. So I think it's probably time to cut Ricardo Ramos from the UFC. As for Khan Offley, good for him. In the first UFC he win, and I'll give him credit. He didn't seem detracted by all the boos the Brazilian crowd was giving him when he was making his post-fight interview. But it's to be expected. The best you can get is some round of applause from the Brazilian crowd if you're not a Brazilian and you won, especially finish. And the best you can do is get an applaud when you tell them, thank you, Brazil. I love you all. You've been all so great. But still, Offley with his first UFC win. Now this kind of puts him at an interesting spot and where they can give him, because I think they got to give him the right step up in competition. Not too high up like some of the guys he was fighting, like Muhammad Naimov, but looks like someone a bit higher than Ricardo Ramos. Maybe they could feed Raul Rosas Jr. Khan Offley, as a way to just keep Raul Rosas busy, keep his brand alive, and more or less get another win under his belt in the UFC. I could totally see them doing that, and that might be the smartest move to make. Especially Offley is more of a grapple heavy fighter than a striker, So that might be also a safer fight for Raul Rosas Jr. more so than what I thought when they booked him against Rob Font. But moving up on the card, Mario Pinto defeats Joahante Diniz via TKO by the end of the second round. I gotta say, I think Mario Pinto is a problem in the heavyweight division. I thought this would be a much more technical heavyweight striking fight, but no. I mean, it was for about like 30 seconds or so. Like there was some light shadow boxing between the two and the occasional exchange of low kicks. But then Pinto goes for a takedown, and then from there, it's his world. He's showing some very good grappling, good able to go from half guard to full mount, land some good ground and pound on Diniz. Diniz, to his credit, Diniz tried to get back up, but Pinto showing good grappling technique, not just being a big man on top of another big man, but like doing really good at keeping how do I want to say, this pretty good job at keeping stable and balanced. No matter how Diniz tried to like buck him off Pinto was steady on the ground. Out his ability to transition from half guard to full mount was impressive. Even his submissions were locked in there pretty tight, going for the key hold, kind of like how John Jones did to Vitor Belfort back in the day. That was the submission Pinto was going for. Man, Diniz toughed that stuff out from that key lock to what looked like a straight armbar to later Pinto kind of going for a more proper armbar. I was very, very impressed by Pinto's grappling, and more so, I was impressed by his ability to fight not only very smart, but technically smart as well. Second round, they once again kind of shadow box. They don't really exchange too much on the feet. Pinto goes for another takedown. Has a bit of trouble getting Diniz down, but eventually he's able to secure, I think it was a trip. It once again from half guard to full mount, and then at that point he just started laying it on Diniz with the ground and pound, and ref had to step in. I really think Mario Pinto is a problem in the UFC heavyweight division. He showed one, he's well rounded because you saw the fight with Austin Lane. He mostly used his striking. Now you see this fight with Diniz showing very impressive grappling. And overall, like it's kind of like why I'm such a fan of Tom Aspinall. I don't know if Pinto's at that level to fight for the belt or win a belt, but he's very similar in terms of like a prospect you want to watch in this heavyweight division because very rarely do you see a heavyweight that can do everything. And while granted, Austin Lane and Johanne Diniz are pretty one-dimensional and do have glaring flaws, the fact that Pinto was able to use those specific flaws against their opponents and not just do the typical strategy of swinging and banging and hoping you win by knockout. He instead was very technical against Austin Lane, picking him apart at the feet, eventually finding his shot. Now, granted, he did get hurt against Lane, and that is a little concerning, but eventually he just got the vicious knockout in by the beginning of round two. And then Diniz, someone who on paper is a better technical striker than him, Pinto just went for his glaring weakness, which was his ground game, and showed good takedowns and good ground game. Also, his post-fight interview was honestly one of the funniest ones I've seen in a while. He's speaking Portuguese to the crowd and going to Michael Bisping how like he has either very little English, doesn't really speak it. Then he in Portuguese, he's basically going to the crowd. Actually, I don't know Portuguese, but he was basically talking to the crowd in Portuguese. Eventually, he goes and he's going to say something in English, saying something he practiced English. Then he literally switches to full-blown perfect English in a British accent because he does train it out in London. And I gotta say, I was thinking to myself, like, damn, he trolled me good because I truly didn't think he could speak English all that well. I guess also, to be fair, it's been a while since I saw him fight. He fought this March, and I had forgotten if he even had a post-fight interview. I'm literally thinking to myself, do I gotta go back to the which card was that? To the Cop Asua Mabayev card and see if he got an interview there, let alone did he speak English there? Because that was some great trolling by Mario Pinto. Just perfect British English, talking about how, McGregor's famous words, I'm not here to take part, I'm here to take over, but, took his own little spin to it. I like Mario Pinto a lot in this heavyweight division. And he's well-rounded. He seemingly is a very smart, intelligent fighter. and he knows how to work the mic pretty well so far. What's not to like about this in a heavyweight, no less? Now, again, he's in a similar position to me with Vitor Petrino. That's 2 wins, 2 finishes. Do they give him a shot at the rankings? I don't know. I would prefer to see him fight one more unranked guy just to be sure and see if he's the goods, and then move up to the rankings. I could see him fight, say, the winner of Hamdi Abdullah and Chris Barnett. I could see him fight the winner of that. Also, that'd be kind of hilarious too. I'm just thinking, or he could fight Kenny and Jetsuku himself instead of Thomas Peterson. And then if they really don't want to give him a ranked opposition, I wouldn't be opposed to, say, Taliesin Teixeira or Mick Parkin. That'd be a pretty good. That'd be a pretty good test for both. Still, though, I like Mario Pinto a lot. As for Johan de Deniz, just give him a pretty fun fight. They could maybe feed him Vitor Petrino. I don't know. It would definitely be a good test for Petrino, but we'll see how it goes. Moving up on the card, something I never thought would happen. Yoel Alvarez defeats Vicente Luque via decision. It was 30-26 across the board. Boy, never thought Yoel Alvarez would ever go to a decision in his career. Well, I mean, granted, most fighters with like 100% finish rates when they hit the UFC eventually win their first decision, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised on that. I guess I was more surprised that it was Vicente Luque of all fighters who, seemed pretty washed, and even in this fight, he didn't look like his old self. Now, granted, he fought with better aggression than I had seen him in some of his other fights, like, say, his RDA fight, where he fought a lot more passive and a lot more wrestle heavy. This one, he really was trying to strike with Yoel Alvarez for a lot of portions of the fight. But, oh my God, same thing that happened to Neil Magny versus Jake Matthews happened here. So, around the midpoint of round 1, Alvarez throws a left hook onto Luque, and his fist is closed, all right? Fist is closed. The thumb knuckle hits the eye of Luque, and Luque is seemingly pretty hurt by it, more so specifically his eye, because it looked like, 1, it was starting to swell, and 2, it was starting to bleed. Eventually, he kind of goes down, and it looked like he's saying he got poked in the eye, so the ref looks at the replay. He sees that it's a legal punch from Alvarez. His fist was closed, he wasn't gouging him like this, or his fingers weren't outstretched, none of that. And Luke seemingly waves off the fight as Luque might not be able to continue. And then he pulls an Uno reverse card and retracts his decision, lets the doctor see if Luque can continue fighting, if like the cut on the eye or his eye is too damaged to continue, which means, Luque is getting about a minute or so of rest after Alvarez has clearly hurt him and might have been on track to TKO Luque. I'm just saying, why should the refs have the power to revoke their decision after they called off a fight? Because seemingly, one, like with the Jake Matthews, like they basically took that win away from Jake Matthews and gave Neil Magny to be in a position to where he could get a third round comeback victory like he did against Mike Malott. It's just kind of bullshit to me, because clearly the refs stopped the fight. Why should they have, revoke it? Now, granted, we can also say something like, oh, well, I'm kind of glad they do this because they might have stopped this fight way too early. Okay, fine. I can see that. But clearly Vicente Luque was really hurt by that punch. It was a legal punch, and he literally eventually fell to his knees and didn't seem like he wanted to continue fighting until until the doctor looked at his eye. And the ref gave him the opportunity by recalling when he waved off the fight. Really, Alvarez technically finished Luque more or less. But apparently not, so the fight continued after round 1. Round 2 was the 10-8 round, as the moment Alvarez took down Vicente Luque, or it was either Vicente Luque going for a takedown and Alvarez just got a headlock in. Either way, Luque was basically on turtle, and Alvarez is either switching from going to Darce choke to going to backside, going for ground and pound, elbows to the body, getting another headlock in, and just repeating this cycle for the entire rest of round two, and winning that round via 10-8 because it was pretty dominant. Luque literally had no moments. There were times where he even ate like a flying switch knee right to the chin from Alvarez. It was pretty pretty awesome seeing that as well. I'll say this: Luque's still pretty tough, but he was still also hurt in some bad ways. He wouldn't have in his prime. He's also a lot more slower and less accurate. Third round, though, boy, was that so boring. And eventually, they're striking a bit more, and Luque goes for a takedown, and Alvarez kind of just goes for an inverted triangle, but it's on Luque's jaw, so he's not going to tap to it no matter how much Alvarez squeezes. And literally, it's just Alvarez on top of Luque. Like, Luque's, again, back in turtle. Alvarez's hands are by his back, while Alvarez's legs are wrapped around Luque's face for this inverted triangle, and they're just stuck there for the remainder of the round, and it was so boring. I mean, I'm surprised Alvarez didn't go for more elbows to the body. I know, he can't hit the spine, but at least like turn the angle from straight down to an arc to just hit the side or hit the ribs or something, or like change position because he could have been, if he had let go of that triangle, he might have been able to take Luque's back, but no, he just kept the position. It was so weird to see Alvarez not go for the finish like that, but doesn't matter. He gets his first win in a new division now against a pretty recognizable name. So at the very least, it's a win for Alvarez. It's still weird that like he gets his first decision over a guy who's been finished as many times as Luque has as of recent, especially considering the ref waved off the fight. But at that point, I'm just going to sound like a broken record when I talk about it. So the good win by Alvarez. Who they give him next? I would kind of be interested if he fought the Leech. If Li Jing Liang would come back. I'm not sure if he will, but I'd be interested in that fight. Also, the loser of Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown. I could definitely see Alvarez getting the win of that. I'm actually thinking if it's Randy Brown versus Yoel Alvarez, that'd be a very intriguing fight because it'd be the first time Alvarez fought anyone who's about as big as him and could beat him in reach. I'm going to be very interested in that fight, actually. As for Vicente Luque, I would like it for him to retire. I don't really want to see him take any more damage. And, I mean, he didn't get finished. Well, again, I thought he did, basically, but he took a lot of damage, and especially on the right side of his face, looked pretty bad by the end of the fight. I don't know. I prefer Luque to retire. If he doesn't, then I don't know, rematch Michael Chiesa or something. Like, let him fight some of these like older veterans. Like he could rematch Wonder Boy at this point. I wouldn't mind that. At least then they're fighting fighters roughly of their era. So though, I prefer him to retire out of all of it. Moving up on the card, Davison Figueiredo defeated Montel Jackson via split decision. 229-28 for Figgy, then 29-28 for Jackson. I don't know how you get split decision from this fight. I mean, I gave Jackson at best the third round. This was easily the most boring fight on the card. First round, Figgy's round, because he was mostly out grappling Jackson for the majority of the fight. And it was so weird seeing Jackson so gun shy in this fight. Now, granted, I know his style is more so setting up his traps and setting up his reads to snipe his opponents, but he's had a lot more, he's thrown with a lot more volume than what he showed us on Saturday. It was just kind of weird. Now, I did think Figgy would be probably the best grappler he's fought in a while, especially of the last 6 fighters he had fought. Figgy is going to be the best grappler out of all of them. And showed, especially also, he was going to be so strong in there. Even at like 5'5", and you could see when they were clinching, one was like a good shoulder and head above the other. Figgy just still a much stronger fighter. Even at times the better striker, though I will admit, by the end of the second round, I thought Jackson was at least landing with a bit more consistent volume and tagging Figgy much better. But I still don't think it was enough to win round 2. And I thought that was a swing round, but no. So apparently the judge who gave it to Jackson gave him round 1 and 3. How? Okay, like if you want to make an argument for Jackson winning, I get giving him the second round, or sorry, second round would be the only round you would give Jackson besides the third, because I thought Figgy clearly won the first round. So I don't know why they're I don't know how a judge can give Jackson the first round. I don't understand it. I know he landed some strikes, but I didn't think it was enough to outweigh the control time Figgy got, not to mention the strikes Figgy himself landed. Still, though, I just thought it was a pretty uneventful fight. I was really disappointed because I thought this could be really entertaining. But, it's a win for Figueiredo, so I guess that's something to be interested. He is the only fighter in like the top 6 who hasn't fought Marab. Now, granted, I don't think beating Montel Jackson is going to get him a title shot. If the rumors of Sean O'Malley versus Song Yudong aren't true, Figgy versus Sean O'Malley would be a great fight. 2 former champions, 2 really good strikers. Granted, Figgy would be the more well-rounded fighter, but I mean, it would still be intriguing because Figgy's head is pretty out there. I mean, his stance is more so karate-esque, and O'Malley does have some good power, and he is a sniper. He could catch Figgy for however long that plays out on the feet. So I would actually think that'd be a really good fight. I don't know who else really you'd give Figgy. I mean, it'd be ironic for like not O'Malley for either Song or Figgy, but instead those two fight each other. I have a better idea though, because if it is Sean O'Malley versus Song Yudong, I actually really hope it because that would be an awesome striking match. Give Figueiredo Henry Cejudo. That'd be the perfect fight. They're roughly around the same age, about 37, 38. Both former champions. Both started off their UFC careers at flyweight, who had some struggles with weight issues. Eventually dialed them in, won for the belt, and moved up a weight class. Now, Cejudo became double champion and Figgy didn't. But still, though, 2 flyweights who later on to their careers fought and won flyweight gold and then moved up to bantamweight with the same goal in mind to become a 2-division champion. That's a great fight. And 2 well-rounded bantamweights. Ace Cejudo theoretically would be the better wrestler. Figgy, pretty good grappler. Figgy would be the better striker, I think. But Cejudo's no slouch on the feet. Honestly, that's the perfect fight, I think, especially with considering how these 2 are in their late 30s and you don't know how much longer they have left. So I think that's a great fight. Oh, right. Before I get to the main event, I thought it was also pretty cool to see Jose Aldo officially retire and put his gloves in the center of the octagon in front of his home country, in front of his people. I thought that was a really nice gesture from the UFC. I know it kind of sucked that Aldo kind of seemingly just came back from his retirement to Marab about a year or so later, or got only 1 win against Jonathan Martinez, and then his next 2 losses were very close decisions to Mario Bautista and Ayman Zahabi. Instead of fighting like, say, another legend like Dominic Cruz, which was the fight to make. But I still think this was a really nice gesture. The King of Rio hanging it up in Rio. I mean, come on, you knew it had to happen. So good for Aldo in the Hall of Fame for a reason. First featherweight champion. Kind of set the standard for what it means to be a featherweight champion. And just an overall great fighter and someone who inspired a generation's worth of fighters, not just from Brazil. Moving up, our main event. Charles Olivera submits Matios Gamrot with a face crank / rear naked choke. I mean, the choke itself was on the chin, not under it. But at the same time, Oliveira has such a squeeze that I wouldn't be shocked if it was also choking out Gamrot, not just crushing its face. Boy, I've never been more happier to be wrong, if I'm being honest. I mean, I picked Gamrot, but I wasn't a confident pick, as I just didn't know how Oliveira would do coming back so quickly from his knockout loss to Topuria, which was roughly 3 months and some change. But I gotta say, man, him winning this fight and Poatan winning just last week, yeah, it's just such a feel-good moment to be an MMA fan. Seeing someone so beloved, someone so respected by his peers, and someone who's went through so much adversity in his career to get to where he is now, and Oliveira is just so happy to watch. First round, it was kind of what I was hoping for in this fight, seeing how scramble heavy Gamrot is and how good Oliveira's guard game is. The moment it hit the ground, these two were scrambling like crazy. Eventually, Oliveira's in guard and starts going for an omoplata, which is, if you've never seen it, they kind of wrap, the opponent on their guard wraps their legs around one of your arms and isolates it, and eventually bends the arm this way while the legs are acting as leverage. So essentially, it's more or less a shoulder crank as they're bending your arm this way with the legs as well as the arm. But what's saving Gamrot is holding the legs more or less, so he has some of his own leverage. Eventually, Oliveira lets it go and then goes for the omoplata again. So this time, Gamrot doesn't have the legs, so instead he tries to step over, and immediately Oliveira just cinches up the back. And for the remainder of round one, he's on there trying to hunt for the rear naked choke. Gamrot's doing a pretty good job of hand fighting, but still, though, Oliveira just stays in dominant position for the remainder of the fight. Then, immediately round two, goes right after Gamrot. Gamrot tries to strike it out with Oliveira, but Oliveira was seemingly much better on the feet, and it was obvious he was going to be the better striker, more powerful striker, too. Looking like he's hurting Gamrot at times, and even is deterring Gamrot from wrestling, which is, Gamrot's main strength. Eventually, Oliveira gets, I believe he gets a C grip as he goes for the clinch. It actually just lifts up Gamrot, which was quite impressive. It shows, he showed it in the Michael Chandler rematch back at UFC 309, but Oliveira really has not only A, improved his wrestling, but two, really improved on just his overall physical strength. Eventually, as Gamrot has like a knee shield and is kind of posting by the base of the fence, Oliveira is able to just slither his way into the back and eventually gets a figure eight on Gamrot's chin and just starts squeezing with all of his might and crushing the jaw of Gamrot. Eventually, Gamrot taps. Again, some of it could have been also choking him as well, but mostly it was, I thought, the famous crank that he tapped to. And then, very similar to how, if you ever saw Jose Aldo's career and you saw him knock out Chad Mendes in their first fight in Rio, and then him jumping out of the octagon and just running to the Brazilian crowd, and they just hoist him up in the air like a hero. That was basically this for Charles Olivera. As soon as he got the submission over Gamrot, he jumps over the octagon, goes to his wife and kids, and someone else in the crowd. I don't know who that was. It might have been his brother or something. If you know who the guy Olivera was hugging, who was next to his wife, let me know. I'd be very interested in that. But still, he just goes to the Rio crowd. They all just gather around him, hug him, hoist him up in the air as well, just celebrating one of their heroes and someone who has been a pioneer for so many Brazilian fighters in the sport of MMA to just go there themselves, just be treated with just the love and respect that many people believed he deserved. It's just such a beautiful thing to watch. It really was just a great feel-good moment. I gotta say too, it's seemingly a new rule in MMA, or like new mythical fighters. You lose to Ilya Topuria, you are guaranteed to win your next fight. Now Yusuf Salal didn't win his next fight. He fought to a draw, but Damon Jackson won his next fight. Jai Herbert won his next fight. Bryce Mitchell won his next fight. Josh Emmett won his next fight. Volk, Holloway, and now Oliveira. Those three won their next fights after their losses to Topuria. Against guys we were pretty worried about could crack two of the three we were concerned they might crack their chin. I mean, Topuria slept them. This guy might do the same thing. Nope, it's just Ilya Topuria. He's just so special. I mean, all this is just aging well and showing how good Topuria is. I mean, excuse me. I mean, Topuria made Oliveira look pretty average in there and like he did not belong. This one, he looked like the world beater we all know he is. In fact, this might have been one of his best performances I think I've ever seen. Just pure domination from the start to the end of the fight. It was just one-way traffic. And honestly, this is it's so amazing seeing someone of Oliveira, someone who went from being noticed, okay, he's a pretty entertaining fighter at times, but he's just so liable to just crumble. to then evolving and becoming such a beloved fan favorite due to his aggressive style. His fights are always must see TV. He never say die attitude, just the retooling of himself. It's just so awesome to see from going from kind of noticeable to beloved and recognized by virtually everyone. It's just so beautiful to see. As for Gamrot, you gotta give him a round of applause. He tried for sure. 2 weeks notice in enemy territory against one of the best in the world. Nothing but respect to Gamrot. It really sucks though. It's like he felt like this was his one and only shot at the big leagues, more or less in the top 5. I don't know who they'll give him after this. I'd say a rematch with Rafael Fiziev makes the most sense for Gamrot, as their first fight did end via leg injury for Fiziev, and Fiziev was out for a while afterwards that fight. So I wouldn't mind them running it back 5 rounds, see who truly is the better man. That makes sense. As for Oliveira, it's very easy. He called out Max Holloway for the BMF belt. Make that fight 2026. Absolutely no debate. That is the perfect fight to make. I mean, who would object to it anyway? Holloway versus Oliveira would be a rematch. Their first fight ended via injury when Oliveira suffered, I believe it was an esophagus tear. So, I mean, it was kind of like unresolved at that point. And now you think how both guys have evolved so much throughout their career. They're to the point where it's just like they're kind of unrecognizable to when they first fought each other. It's absolutely the perfect time to make that fight. Who knows? I mean, they put that in Brazil. Oh my God, that arena would sell out. I personally would hope they would make that fight for like the UFC's first ever event in Hawaii. Now, I don't know if they'll actually go to Hawaii in 2026, so they might do that fight somewhere else. And I know how, I think it was Oliveira was saying that for the UFC White House card. I think, but Holloway himself has said he wants a quicker return somewhere between February or March of next year. I don't care. I prefer to see that fight earlier, but if they want to put it in the White House card, I'm not objecting either. It's kind of crazy to think like how that BMF title is like having a great lineage now, and their champions are actually defending that belt and headlining cards. So though, Oliveira versus Holloway 2, sign me up. I would love that fight. I want to see that so bad. But with that being said, that has been my overall post-fight reactions and what I generally thought of all the fights, and just my general recap of the fights for UFC Rio. If you liked the video, comment and subscribe. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Charles Olivera winning? Are you happy? Or are you ecstatic seeing Du Bronx get another win and just showing that he's far from done so far? And overall, what did you think of the card? I thought it was a lot better than what I thought it was going to be, just because there was a lot more finishes than I thought. But overall, I thought most of the fights were pretty entertaining. Next up, we will have UFC Vancouver, and I'm extremely excited to talk about that card, as I think that's one of the best Canadian cards on paper I've seen in a while. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Take care.